People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, guys, this week we have a legend in magic. This guy is a comedy magician known the world over. I have a list of things. You may have seen him on Magic on the Edge, Masters of Illusion, Magic Comedy Strip, World's Greatest Magic, Carnival of Wonders. He has even won Magic Castle's Stage Magician of the Year and toured with the Illusionists all over the world. And now he's the proud owner of Marvyn's Magic Theater in La Quinta, California. Everybody is Jeff Hobson.
Yay! my wife bought these for me. I just thought they're so cool, you know. Anyways, so you know. By the way, you're very East Coast because you said La Quinta. It's La Quinta.
Yeah. La Quinta. I don't know.
You gotta say, hey, I'm near Mexico. I get all the accents correct down there.
Okay, there you go. There you go. All right, so we talked a little bit before we started, and you said you're in Michigan now. That's where you're originally from, correct?
Originally from Detroit, Michigan, born and raised there, then moved out to California, back and forth for a few years, and now we have Marvyn's Magic Theater in California. But my wife said, hey, we need to get back to Michigan, our roots, and so I am up in a little town called Irons, Michigan, not Iron Mountain. This is Irons, Michigan. Even people from Michigan don't know where this is at. Really out in the middle of nowhere. We have a stop sign in town, and so we're big deal. But this is out in the middle of nowhere. I sort of love it, actually.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
We got 5 acres out in the woods, and it's nice to turn off because you're on stage, you're in show business. It's nice to turn off, isn't it?
It is. It's nice. I can't really, you know, I mean, luckily we've got internet, but that's, you know, but still, you know, you go outside and all. I'm in the Manistee National Forest, surrounded by it, so it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so how do you run a theater when you're halfway across the country?
Well, luckily we're closed for the summer because it's you know, triple digits out in La Quinta, Palm Springs area. It's desert, so all of you know, half of the people leave during, you know, June, July, August, and September, and they start coming back in October. So we close the theater.
Wow.
For that time. And so we reopen October 17th this year, a couple weeks later than normal, but it's okay. I got stuff to do. I got a couple performances I arranged. So we're opening a little late, and then the season really goes through the end of May. And then we have an option of maybe a couple weeks in June, depending on if people demand it. If they say, yeah, we want you to stick around. So we do. And so this year, I think we got here, just about July 5th, I think, this year. And now we're staying about the month of September, and then we open back up Marvyn's in the fall.
Nice. I remember seeing a tour, maybe it was on your Facebook or something, but that is a beautiful, beautiful venue. Did you design all of that yourself?
I fought tooth and nail to design the theater the way I wanted it to. You had all these architects that thought that they knew better of how to design seats and where to put them, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. And so finally, I got my way, and that's why I get a lot of people coming, because they're like, yeah, this is perfect, and it is a perfect little theater. The outside, they actually designed the decor. That was a company from Sacramento that the original founder of Marvyn's Magic Theater were friends with, and he brought him in and designed, and he won like Architectural Digest awards and all this good stuff. And so it looks pretty cool. It does. Yeah. I'm very proud of it. It's really neat.
Wow. Wow. All right. So we're going to get to everything, but while we're on Marvyn's subject right now, why Marvyn's Magic? Did you have a deep connection with him, or it just...
That's a misnomer. It has nothing to do with Marvyn's Magic, which is Martin Burglas. That is a totally separate thing. However, funny enough, even though it's not related at all business-wise, and Marvyn is spelled differently, Marvyn Roy changed his to the Marvyn, and then Marvyn Burglas is still Marvin. But funny enough, Marvyn Roy, whom Marvin's Magic Theater is named after, is actually Marvin Berglass's godfather.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, isn't that something? So I mean, it's a neat little I guess a coincidence that two Marvins are sort of related, but the businesses aren't.
So why Marvyn Roy? Why name your theater after Marvyn Roy? Did you have a connection with him? Did he train you? Did you?
Yeah, no, I was very, very proud and blessed to be one of his sons. He had about he adopted 20 sons around the world throughout his career, and I was one of them among a bunch of other guys in the business. You probably know Tony Clark and another guy, David Copper or something. I forget his name. He's another one. And so we all became his adopted sons. And in the 1980s, when I met Marvin and his wife Carol at the time, we became really close, really good friends. And then for a hot second, they also became my managers for about 6 months. And then we kept in touch. And then I left and did my thing in Vegas for 30 years, etc. And then found out eventually that Marvin lives in La Quinta, California, where the theater's at. And so I went out to visit him, and when Carol passed, I was a pallbearer at her funeral, and we got to know each other a little better, and this and that. And then finally, a friend of mine, Gary Butler, who was the good friend of the architectural firm that came in design, he lived in La Quinta. And I knew Gary for many decades. And he always said to me, "Hey, Jeff, if you ever want to open a theater, let me know." And I turned him down for like 12, 15 years. I don't know. And finally I said, okay. So we opened it, except before opening, we didn't have any idea what to call it. And so knowing that Marvin is in La Quinta, and we're good friends with him and been talking with him, and I introduced Gary to Marvin, Marvin to Gary, and the Magic Club and everything else. One day I get a call from Gary, and he says, "I know what to call the theater." And I said, "What?" He said, "Marvin's Magic Theater." And I went, of course that's what we call it. And so we invited Marvin, and he has one of the front seats with his plaque on the back. So we know that's always going to be Marvin's, no matter what decade it is, what lifetime we're living in. So yeah, that's why we were good friends, and Gary had the idea of calling it Marvin's Magic Theater, and it's been that way ever since. And he was a bit taken aback and like, "Oh no, you don't want to call it that." And I said, "Yeah, we do." So of course, all around the theater is his photos, and we keep his spirit alive, him and Carol as well. So there it is. There's Marvin's Magic Theater, the story behind the name.
Well, for those that don't know, I don't even know if you know. Do you know who Marvyn Roy is?
Not really, no.
Mr. Electric.
Oh.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, and if some of you don't, have no idea who this is, he was born April 1st, 1925. Great day for a magician to be born, April 1st, right? And he was one of the premier cabaret acts in all of Europe and Las Vegas for a long, long time. He and his wife started in about 1955 performing. They got married at that time, and they traveled everywhere and did, there's almost no famous room that they didn't work. They were twice on the Ed Sullivan Show, which is an old version of like the Tonight Show, and then another 2 or 4 times on the Tonight Show. Merv Griffin, you name it, they were on all these television programs and around the world. And if you go on and to Google, and you Google either Mr. Electric, Marvyn Roy, Marvin and Carol Roy, Mr. Electric, you'll see a bunch of videos from the 1950s, black and white, all the way up through, probably the early 2000s of them performing. Amazing act.
And what you might not know is when you're training a new assistant, they watch Carol videos. She was like the epitome of the beautiful.
She was like the quintessential, yeah. She was like, if anyone, there was 2 people I always recommended. If you're going to get into magic, there's 2 magicians you need to learn about, and their assistants. And the assistant was Carol Roy, because actually, little known that Carol actually taught Marvin a lot about theater, stage crafting, how to bow. He had no idea how to bow. She goes, no, you got to do it this way, because she was in show business since she was 15. And the other assistant is Ginger Kalen, who, I mean, if you look up, both of them, she's like one of the best in the world. And when I worked with them, I mean, was the best. But they were more partners, really, because it's a little weird, always to call somebody that does like half the work or more,
Or
quite often, an assistant, when really, however, that just makes the mystique of the magician causing the magic all the more mystical. That's what you, Natalie, and other assistants help do, because it's almost like, hey, how can he be doing those magical things when he's just standing there doing this and stuff is happening? Who does it? Yes, shh, it's you.
Jeff, I'll tell you the truth, man. I try to come up with a set list just on a spur of the moment, like this show we've done several times at this resort. Let's come up with a new set list. She's like, you can't do that there. I'm doing this, this, and this.
I'll never make it from here to there, and that thing has to be set here, and this.
See,
like,
if you need direction and coordination in life, you must talk to your better half and or assistant.
There you go. I don't even know what she does backstage. She's awesome. She's awesome. But
Yeah.
this is all about you. Enough about Marvyn Roy.
I want to know more about you. Let's just spend the next hour talking about Wes and Natalie.
Well, we can do that later.
Okay.
About you. This is all about you. All right. So, comedy clubs, is that where it started for you?
No, you know what? Well, I mean, I started my first performance was at 11. My first paid performance was 12 at a birthday party. And then I was like the busiest magician in the Detroit area in my teens. I was working I had no time for school. I just skated along with a C minus, just enough so I didn't embarrass my family. I just kept up. I'm like, this is boring as heck, because I already knew what I wanted to do. And then when I was in my 20s, I started doing some corporate shows. And then, yeah, about mid 1980s, a lot of comedy clubs, not as many as you'd figure, but funny enough, I'm returning to do one comedy club in about 4 weeks in Waterford, Michigan, called One Night Stands, STAN, with a good buddy of mine, Mike Green, who's one of the funniest comedians I know. And he found out I was in the state, and he goes, hey, do you want to do my place? And I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? So I'm returning to do a comedy club. I haven't done a comedy club in, I don't know, probably 30 years or so. So it's going to be fun.
Wow. I really thought you were like the comedy club guy of the 80s. I thought that's where you really.
I mean, well, because I really wanted to diversify a bit. Yes, I did comedy clubs, but I didn't make my living at comedy clubs. That was more the fun thing. I was already in my 20s doing lots of corporate shows, family shows, children's shows, and I get bored if I do 2 days in a row of anything. So I really wanted to do a lot of different things. And now the guys that were killer, of course, in the 80s was Mac King, Paul Kozak, and Amazing Jonathan. Those guys just tore everything up for the 80s, So I was, by the time I got on the scene, they were pretty much already established. And so I was just doing it for fun.
I thought you were a part of that clique, of that.
No, well, I mean, in Detroit, yes. In Detroit, but outside Detroit, no. However, it did establish my character that I still use today. My flamboyant character came out of the comedy clubs by accident, if you want to hear the story.
That was one of my questions.
I do.
Okay. So the idea was I was performing some comedy clubs, and I was married before for 5 years, my first wife. And I was always wearing, vest, tie, bow tie, tuxie, sort of formal things. And I knew that I was out of place at most comedy clubs, because if you probably know, back in the 80s, a ripped shirt and jeans were pretty much, the thing that you wore, and people did whatever they wanted to do. And I was always the standout. And people, people sort of looked at me, and they, it worked out fine, but I was sort of a little bit outside of the norm, obviously, with what I wore. And my wife, one night at the time, she says, I bought this for you to wear because it's hip, and well, at the time it was 80s, but then we know. And it was a long was a long necktie, all rhinestones, a long rhinestone, rhinestone necktie. And I looked at it and I went, oh, and being a good husband, I decided to wear it one night. I said, because I didn't want to say no and insult her. I said, okay, I'll wear it tonight. And I thought, oh, and I look at this thing, I'm like, oh man, I don't know about this. This is really funky. I felt very uncomfortable. And this particular night at the Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, Mark still comes into Marvin's Magic Theater. Matter of fact, he retired to Palm Springs. But anyways, the owner of the Magic Castle at the time, and so I go to Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle this one particular night. It was a Tuesday night, like an open mic night, and it was only I don't know, maybe 12 people in the audience. It was a rainy night, and I decided to go out anyway and wear this. I go, oh, good, no one will see me wearing this. So I go on stage, and there was two really drunk, big, burly, drunk guys with beers in their hand, the front seat, right in the perfect couple of people that you don't want in the front row at any show, at any time. But the timing was I was wearing this tie, and those burly guys were in the front drunk. And as soon as I got introduced and walked up, I said, hi, ladies and gentlemen, how are you? And these guys sort of just bust out laughing, right? And I looked down at them and I said, I know what you're thinking. I get it. I said, but I'm not. And he's laughed a little harder. And I said, I'm not. And then all of a sudden I heard more laughing. And I went, And then improv kicked in, and I said, I was. And then I said, but I'm not anymore. And then I looked down at one of the guys. I said, but I could be again. And then I said, I was talking to my wife about all this. I said, Chuck, And so now all of a sudden this whole thing sort of unraveled, and I said, oh, okay, I'll go along with it. Why not? Because it got laughs that I never had before at a comedy, and I was getting good laughs with this. And then the whole thing, I said, okay, I'll play sort of is he or isn't he? I sort of straight lines and then not so straight lines, and so of course the thing that I wanted everyone to say was, not that he is gay or he is not gay. I want people to go, is he or isn't he? That's what I want. And so everybody used to ask, and they still do today, are you or are you not? And so, not that I was doing any gay jokes. I was just doing a play on my persona, what people perceived me to be. And you went with it. So then that was where the character was born. And I immediately, the next day, got rid of my tux, got rid of my wife, and then... no, I didn't. But anyway, so I started doing more comedy clubs and getting more, rhinestones and jewelry and stuff. And then I became sort of like the Liberace of magic. If you know who Liberace is, did I bypass your guys' age?
No, I know who Liberace is.
She knows who.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, very flamboyant piano player, showman from the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. So there you go.
Yeah.
I think he was.
Yeah, well, he definitely was. Even though he never admitted it, but yeah, he was.
All right. So, golly. So it just all came out, but it's not just flamboyant and just this. I mean, you're fluttering around the stage.
Yeah.
Your arms are flailing. The confidence and just to take over the stage and you're not tiptoeing. I mean, it is full-blown character.
Well, now, funny enough, if you haven't seen me in some years, I'm now not doing as flamboyant. I'm doing a little. It's funny though. I think it must come across people, still assume the same, but I don't have to do all of the overt stuff that I used to do. And I think that's a little bit for theater for those people who may be watching performers, whatever, and they're looking for maybe a character. A lot of entertainers or, that are trying to find their gimmick, their thing, some people, they don't feel comfortable in their own skin. They don't know what other people perceive them to be because they've never asked, or they don't get any feedback. And so I think there's a number of entertainers probably out there, or wannabe entertainers, that sort of fight the perception of who they are. Or unfortunately, and more often, they cling on to a idea of what they want to be, and the problem is because of a number of factors, it doesn't work. Maybe they think themselves to be a I don't know, a Brad Pitty, Tom Cruise guy on stage and whatnot, and they just they don't look it, they don't have the movements, and if they don't have the acting skills, they can't pull it off, even if they did look like these guys. So I think the part of the realism of entertainment is you have to find your little niche in who you are and who you believe yourself to be, and can you pull it off? Because if you're doing shows and people aren't buying it, you should reevaluate who you are, what you look like, and start getting a director. I think that's a big part of entertainment that people don't understand, is that we can look at our own videos all day long, and we can look at our partner's videos and ask each other and my wife and anyone else, and you're too close to it. And the best thing that ever happened, I think, to Carnival of Wonders show, which is why it was such a great show, and it really was, it was probably the best production of any type. And if you ask some people in the magic world and you say, what's the best magic show you've ever seen, it will be Carnival of Wonders. And I think that is very much due to Joni Spina, who was the choreographer, dancer, assistant to David Copperfield, who really shaped a lot of who he is today. Joni really she's brilliant. I've never met somebody brilliant, a brilliant person like her. And she could look at something and she'd go, She'd look at it and goes, what if you changed places here and came out 3 seconds later and didn't walk so far, and you kept your feet a little bit together, and all this stuff that Mark or Ginger, myself, didn't even think of. Why would that make a difference? But sure enough, it did. She could go into any place, record shop at the time, a CD shop, and she'd find a piece of music that fits so beautifully to something that I would never pick. But when it's played and you go, oh my gosh, I didn't have the ear for it, she did. So and she directed a lot of really good artists that still do some great shows today. And so my thoughts for anybody watching that is in the position that wants to really put your artistic, get really out there and find out the best thing for your act or your performance, is find a director, a third party that's good. Pay a lot of money. Same thing with photographs. Now that I'm on my high horse, if you're going to get photographs, pay as much as possible, because the worst thing you can do is just find somebody that just happens to have a camera. Oh yeah, let's go into the basement and blah, blah, blah. No, I fought that for years. And finally, when I paid enough money to a guy that really knew what he was doing, at the time it was $1,500, and this was a long time ago. I mean, these photos, it got me more work than I could tell you. As soon as I start putting these photos out there, vroom, I mean, all of this, and again, I wouldn't have picked the lighting, the look, the this, the that, but that person knew exactly what to do, how to do it. And then if you're going to do that, go get a stylist again. And what is that? That's just somebody who's a third person that looks at you while you're getting your photography and goes, nope, hold on. Let me straighten this up. Nope, that color's not good for you. Nope, you're too wrinkled. This needs to be pressed, and looks at all these details that you don't even know about or care about at the time. So that's a big, big deal. Director and good photos.
Golly, I never would have thought we'd have done this deep into show
Yeah,
business.
sorry if you'd rather not, but I figured, I know a lot. I have seen more acts that need what I've explained to you, and unless somebody comes to me, I'm not going to walk up to them and go, hey, you need a director, you need good photos. But people need to hear it. People need to hear things that they don't normally do in a magic shop.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, we go to magic conventions. How many I'm over exaggerating, right? 500-pound Lance Burton wannabes are there.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Somebody's not talking to that guy. It doesn't work, dude. You're not Lance Burton. You don't look anything like him.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then there are some people that will come in and send me a video of their show, and it looks like a magic shop. It's exactly what people have done before, or they see somebody on television on Masters of Illusion or whatever the program is, and they decide to lift that same presentation for their show. That doesn't work, because if it's not you, one of two things are going to happen. Either it's not going to be good, or you're going to really tick off the person that it really came from, and they're going to come after you. I mean, they should. Anyways, I've told off a few people before when they've very proudly say, "Oh, I've been doing your exact lines and routines from this, and this, since I saw you on TV." And some people are very strangely proud of that, not getting the idea that, man, you're not even hurting me, you're hurting yourself. And I go, it's just stupid to do. People that do covers of songs, even they do it in their own style and way and stuff. They try not to do exactly. If they did, they're called impressionists, and that's fine. But if you're not an impressionist, you shouldn't be doing the song exactly like the creator. It's the same thing with magic. Try to take whatever it is you got and just twist it and put a different view on it, and that's what I try and do.
So, and you do. We know you do. I mean, the stuff that you come out with is awesome. There's not a piece of your act that it's like, needs some work.
No.
Everything is flawless. Everything.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks. But what it is, here's another thing that maybe the reason what it is when I was growing up, I watched television every night because that's what was on in the house, and everybody loved all the comedians of the time. Red Skelton, Dick Van Dyke, Danny Kaye, all these, and so and my family loved to laugh, and I loved to laugh. So I found out what was funny, and I realized at the time. And I know that probably magician, I might be sent to the gallery for this. You might actually get canceled, you guys, because of what I'm about to say. But I found out that magic's not that important. Matter of fact, I would rather have somebody laugh than be amazed at whatever I do. So because I think magic's fine, but more people want to laugh than they want to be amazed. If you ask the whole population, I'm sure 90% of them would rather laugh than watch magic. So that's that's one thing. But so what I would do, my little secret in my head, is I find something that's just really funny. Either a really funny joke, or a funny scenario, or even a funny sound that makes people laugh, or anything, or I found out recently, well, anyway, I'll go back to the torn restored napkin in a second, but I find out something that's really funny that I know is a guaranteed laugh, and then I'll build a trick or a routine around that. But at least there's one really good laugh in there. And so, like, for instance, when I do the card and mouth, I know that when I talk and go, ha, 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 like that, I know that that little visual is a guaranteed people will laugh. I don't care who you are. That's a funny thing. So I sort of built the card and mouth routine around that. The egg bag, slow motion thing, and I was doing that since I was 16, and I did that accidentally one time, and everybody's laughing. I go, oh, okay. So that's really going to be my thing because of the slow motion bit in there. I wouldn't do the egg bag if I didn't do the slow motion. It's just what it is. It's the only reason I do it is for the slow motion. The torn restored napkin, the sucker napkin trick. You tear one up and you show how it's done and all that. I used to do that when I was a teenager. And then I put it away, and all of a sudden I got it out and I said, oh, because I'm at Marvyn's every night and I want to do something different for, because I perform every single night doing a little MC work and stuff. And so I pulled that out, relearned it, and then realized that a funny moment came when I was holding, trying to hide the palm ball, and it became so funny that it's actually funnier than the trick is. And I went, oh, so I'm acting really weird and doing all this contorted body movements, and people are laughing really good. And I'm like, oh, that's one of my new things now, because I'm getting more laughs making fun of the movements that I got to make than the trick itself. So I keep it. So same thing, I do, there's a lot of old stuff that I'm starting to look at and go, how can I make this, what in that trick can I make that one moment, that one special moment, funny than anything, my thumb tie. I don't even care for the thumb tie all that much. But one day I did it and I put my arms around the guy, around his body. And all of a sudden then I realized, if I actually played some music to this, like Marvin Gaye's, I forget the name of the song, but just the fact that I play music now, romantic music while I'm entwined with this guy, that's all I care about. Doesn't even have to be a thumb tie. It just has to be, I went, oh, that's funny. And I keep the thumb tie because of the routine, of the funniness that I get. So yeah, I don't pick the tricks. I pick the situations or the jokes or the funny parts, and then build a trick, find a trick around it.
Nice.
Wow.
I like that.
Wow.
I like it a lot.
All right. So you were talking about Carnival of Wonders. My little link to Jeff Hobson with Carnival of Wonders is I got to get in your production prop at Ray Lum's place. So fun. So awesome. I just had a picture of me standing in your prop, and I'm like, I'm done. I can go home now.
Are you talking the poster?
The appearance, yeah.
Oh, you know what? That is another trick that is like the simplest thing. It is so simple how it works. You do know how it works, right?
Yes.
Okay. Black art, basically. But when the first time I did it in front of a live audience and I came alive and sort of stepped out of the frame, I have never, you can show illusions all day long and listen to an audience and you don't hear what the audience makes that noise. They go, oh, yeah, and the whole audience does this whole, what is going on? And you don't hear that very often at all in magic shows or illusion shows. And so, yeah, that's a very special prop. And I'm not even sure I think Mark and Ginger may have already sold that, I think some years ago.
Wow.
It's a good prop. It was a great trick.
It was awesome. I love the carnival decorations on it. It was just perfect. It was perfect in every way. Did you always all comedy magic? Did you ever try doves? Did you ever try illusions?
Oh yeah. My first many years. I started. Well, I watched what was that called? The Bill Bixby Wonderful World of Magic came out when I was 11. And when I was 11, I would watch all these acts that are actually just Physimax, one right after the other. And I saw Fred Capps. And, Fred Capps, if you don't know who Fred Capps is watching this, you need to go and Google that. One of the best magicians in the world. And his style of sleight of hand and silent magic, I sort of, I took that and I emulated it. Matter of fact, I made my own salt pour based on just seeing him do it. And it's not like his at all, but I made my own salt pour from it. I used to do billiard balls. I had the largest set of Fakini made billiard balls at the time. He said he never made a set bigger for anyone. 16, 4 shells and all these other gimmick balls. And he goes, I've never made one like this. So I commissioned him to make those. So yeah, I did all that, cards and billiard balls and all that. And then at the same time, and I did doves as well. Matter of fact, I won Abbott's competition with a dove act. Different colored doves, 1976, right? So it was like the bicentennial year or whatever it was. And so I did a red, white, and blue dove act and won the award. So yeah, but at the same time, I was also doing shows with the comedy, with the kids and the family shows and starting to like that more. So I sort of transitioned from that sort of thing, because doves are a pain in the butt if you do them. I don't know if you do, but it's a pain in the butt to keep them up and watered and fed, and all that. So I wanted to do just my kids shows, family shows. And so probably after I was 16, 17, about 18, pretty much I had retired doves and the sleight of hand stuff and just went into full-time comedy magic.
Wow. Wow. So how far is Detroit from Colon? Did you grow up in Colon? Did you go to Colon every year?
Well, it was, I didn't realize, but I wasn't the only one where in a 1974 Boy's Life, there's a magician on the cover. And me and a number of other people, I didn't know that was a lot of people's first visit because it was a whole spread on Abbott's Get Together. And I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, and this is in Michigan? What? You know, I couldn't believe it. And I showed my dad and he says, oh, do you want to go? I'm like, what? You're going to take me there? And so, yeah, it's about 2.5 hours directly west of Detroit is Colon, Michigan. And yeah, I mean, that's another one that's just got a blinking red light in town. It's, you know, and then Abbott's Magic Company. Now, funny enough, there's 3 magic companies in town, but Abbott's is still the main one. And so I was going there, and then that, yeah, when I was 12 years old was my first time going there, and then I joined and started being in the competitions when I was 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, and yeah, and so this was my first week. This year was the first time I spent an entire week just at Abbott's in, I think, in 30 or more years. So yeah, fun.
Wow.
Sweet.
Wow. I always want to go, but it's in the middle of the summer. We have resorts. That's when everybody's on vacation. It's hard. You miss all that. I got to have the money when I can make it, man.
Hey, when I was in Vegas for 30 years, I didn't go to Abbott's because I was working. It's like, hey, you know, it's like what you do if you're making a full-time living at Magic, there are sacrifices to be made. Now, you know this, but I think the advantage, you know, is yeah, you work weekends pretty much 99% of the time. Fridays and Saturdays are always the main day. So you don't get, so you got to figure that your days off are going to be, you know, Sunday, Mondays, Tuesdays for the most part. Then if you take a vacation, you know, it better be during the downtime and make sure you know when that downtime is. Mine in Vegas was always the week before Christmas. We closed up, you know, Vegas used to close up, all the shows would. And then that was the best time because Disneyland and my children, there was nobody at Disneyland. So we would go on a ride 10 times in a row because there's nobody around. It was perfect. So yeah.
Wow. All right. So you mentioned children. How many kids do you have?
3. Do you want one?
No, I'm good. I have 3. I'm good.
No, but I got 3, and yeah, they were all born in Las Vegas, and now they're all on their own. One is my oldest is a jet pilot, charter jet pilot. She's doing great. She always loved flying. And my middle one lives she lives in Vegas. Then my middle son Ian, he is a staging AV manager. So he sets up stuff like the Formula One race in front of the Bellagio, and he does all the trussing and all the stuff that makes that work. And then my youngest, she's an actress, and youngest by 27. So will be 27. But anyways, so and she's doing some commercials and some short films. A short film will be out this month. Yeah. And then she's also got a major feature that she's filming now. It's a B slasher movie called Slash Squatch about an axe wielding Yeti. And she's actually going and filmed in upstate New York. And now I think today, she's flying to Portland, Oregon, because in Oregon is also Yeti Sasquatch land and stuff. And so she's filming, and she's going to be the only survivor at the end of the movie. So hopefully it's like a Jamie Lee Curtis. There's going to be 30 of these. Hopefully, we'll see.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow.
That'll be awesome.
Wow. I need to watch it now.
Yes, no kidding.
It's not going to come out until next Halloween, unfortunately.
That's all right. That's all right. I'll mark my calendar.
Yeah.
Slash Squatch. I would see that movie even if my daughter wasn't in it just for the title. It's got to be so weird.
All right, so I'm watching all of your videos today, trying to get prepared for this, and it's not hard to do. It's so much fun to do. It looked like one of them you were on a cruise ship. How long did you do cruise ships, or did you do cruise ships, or was that just a one-off?
No, I did cruise ships off and on for a little while. In 2000, and then I didn't do them for a long time. Then in 2010, I had this one guy called me. He says, "Hey, I'm the entertainment director for Norwegian Cruise Lines, and I saw you at the Magic Castle like 20 years ago, and we have this new ship, and I remembered your act from all this time, and would you like to do it?" And I said, yeah, sure. And so we rekindled our friendship, and I did Norwegian cruises for, a number of, I don't know, 4 years or so. And then he had me design a show for the Norwegian Getaway called the Illusionarium, which was the #1 rated ship in the fleet of Norwegian cruise ships for like a full year. And so I designed that. And yeah, and now I do an occasional one every few years whenever I sort of go, hey, I feel like doing a cruise ship somewhere because I haven't been there. My wife, I said, oh, I haven't been there. Let's go there, And so I only pick out a week or two or maybe four every 2 to 3 years, and I do one now. So yeah, I've had my share, and I'm experienced with them.
Wow.
Nice.
So the Illusionarium, is that still around?
No, because it was only scheduled to be lasted. What happens is they don't schedule something on cruise ships to be forever. Even if they design a special room for it, the shelf life of a show is 3 to 5 years in general. And so the Illusionarium lasted 4.5 years. And then they repositioned the ship in Europe, and because it was pretty much they wanted something that no English was spoken, no language, sort of like a Cirque du Soleil no language thing. They changed over the entire show and they took it out. But yeah, I had a lot of great acts in that show. James Demare, Lost Sander, just to name a few. So it was great.
Well, talking about just having you on the podcast today, another thing for me to be nervous about, you're such a daggone good interviewer. I've seen you interview James Demare and all that. Dude, it was awesome. It was Johnny Carson.
I've had people go, you should actually go. I'm like, okay. So I've said to so many people, go, okay, I thank you. And be my manager, go out and find me a gig, hosting on television somewhere. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. No, but yeah, and the Lecture Network was a fun project that I lost a lot of money at. Yeah, I thought, oh, no one's doing these interviews where you can get questions from everywhere immediately. Nobody was doing that. Nobody could think the technology was that good. And so I had this computer built that had very low latency, so you could take calls from all over the world, and it was only a couple seconds. Now there's no latency, as you know, but at the time, to have a conversation with somebody was almost impossible spontaneously like this. So yeah, so we did these live. These were live, and people tuned in. The problem is I only had about 80 or so subscribers. I really needed about 150 to sustain it well. And so after a few years, about 3 years, we went out of business. But it was great at the time. And all those interviews, the Lecture Network videos are through, Slight School, David Williamson's Slight School. You can access all of them through there. And the passwords and everything are through there. So, but there, I think there's like 50, 55, 60 interviews and things like that there. So yeah. And most of those people are passed on now. I mean, John Calvert and all these guys would come in and do it. So it was great.
Wow. Well, I've probably seen about 10, and they're just awesome. Yeah, I want more. So I need to go. I'm a member.
Yeah.
But now I need to go find more because they were great. You were awesome. I'm telling
Thanks.
you, I don't know, you don't get the credit for being this interviewer, but I'm telling you, I want more.
Well, good. Yeah, as I told everyone else, both Wes and Natalie are now my manager, and we're going to be I'm going to be doing some sort of a PBS special soon, and I'll interview the best magicians ever still living.
Our Jeff Hobson podcast.
Yeah, or that, sure.
Yeah,
you can do that.
Yeah.
All right, so you told me you can't stand being at a place more than 2 days at a time.
Well,
how was the Illusionists being on tour with them all over the world? It's a lot of hurry and wait. How did you handle that?
Yeah, I was with them for about 7 years.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. Usually though, we had a month or two, a month break here and there, but yeah, I mean, cause it's not a full season. No, I went everywhere, thousands of shows, and it was, probably the best. I've been in places and cities and beautiful theaters that I never thought I'd ever be able to go. And with that, I mean, went to Broadway twice, the Sydney Opera House twice, London's West End, and all the best theaters in the country here and abroad. I mean, I'm in places that I'm like, I've only heard of this. This is great. Well, yeah, I mean, here's what made it great. When you're with a professional company like the Illusionists was, when I entered the theater and my dressing room, everything was already laid out. My costumes were laid out. They were pressed. My shoes were laid out. My prop table was already laid out. I didn't have to be there much more than 10 minutes ahead of time just to put on my jacket and get my makeup on and go on stage. And then afterwards, I just sort of left and I would wave at all the acts that are still packing up. They would wave back, just not using as many fingers. And so I would leave and they would pack up everything and all my costumes, get on a truck, and then I would just be at the airport the next day or the bus the next morning or whatever. So it wasn't quite the grind you'd probably think it is, because we were treated really nice. And in some, you know, most of the places were very nice. There was a few sketchy, you know, places, but for the most part, 99% of the time, it was great places and places that, you know, most people pay to travel to. And so, yeah, I didn't get bored with that.
So you did some sightseeing?
Nice.
It wasn't
Oh,
just
yeah, sure. I mean,
Oh.
a lot of some of these places, these great cities, you're in for a full week, like at Prague and, you know, in Germany, and I mean, there's places that you go, geez, you know, and you all across Upper Canada, which is the most gorgeous area in the world to travel. And so, yeah, no, there were times where I didn't quite know the city I was in, because we'd arrive at 2:00, you know, get into our room, 3:00, 3:30, you'd be at rehearsal, 4:00, you're at rehearsal, sound check, light check, you go into your dressing room, you sort of wait, then you get into, you know, costume, and then you'd walk out, do the show, and then right afterwards, you're tired, you go to sleep, you wake up, you're on a bus, and you go, where was I? You know, so that happened quite a bit. But looking back, I'm like, wow, I didn't realize, I mean, the amount of hundreds of cities that, and some of them, yeah, I didn't see, but many of them I did.
Wow.
That's great.
Wow.
That's great.
So we've answered so many questions here. Let's see. Tell me about your golf show. Are you doing that out there at La Quinta?
La Quinta.
La Quinta?
Yes, say it correctly, doggone it. No, that's yeah, La Quinta, California. Well, you know, the golf show, I used to do a lot when I was in Michigan, when I lived here in Michigan, because I got to know all the agents, and the agents, when I worked through a lot of agents, which I don't do now just because I'm not available that much. But when I worked through agencies, they had sort of the, you know, they knew when all the golf outings were happening and stuff. And so I performed for quite a few of those at the time. And then I didn't, because I'm traveling, or, you know, you don't get a chance to do the golf stuff when you're on the road with the Illusionist, or I've got my theater. But however, during golf, when there's big golf outings, I still get to do some of the material over at the theater, Marvyn's Magic Theater. And I still have all my clubs. If somebody asks me, I mean, I got hired to go to Australia, you know, 4 years in a row during their season, to perform at all their Australian Masters and the Australian, you know, Open and all that sort of stuff. So I was in Australia for a long time, and doing just the golf stuff.
Wow.
Are you a big golfer? Are you into golf?
Yeah, I'm golfing since I was about 18 or so. I'm not good. I think a good swing to me is one where I know which direction to look after I hit the ball. So that is, so no, I mean, I can hit 300-yard drives, but I don't know whether it's going to be that way or that way, or straight ahead. So yeah, no, I can hit some good shots where I've played in some pro-ams and had a few attaboys on a few of my shots. So yeah, I don't embarrass myself anywhere I go.
That's good.
Yeah, I hit a bucket of balls. If I get one attaboy, I'm happy.
There you go.
It's, you know, I say it's the easiest, most difficult game in the world. All you got to do is put that ball in that cup with a little stick by hitting it. You would think not a big deal, but actually doing it in real life is very difficult. So
Yeah.
So was the Magic comedy strip the television show that took place in Europe so many years ago? Was it early 80s, I'm guessing. Was that
Well,
your first television show?
that was my first international show that I did television. Yeah, well, the first thing was Magic Comedy Hour. That was a 1-hour special with just me and Rudy Kobe and David Williamson. And we did a 1-hour show, and it got such good reviews. They got, in fact, I think their ratings were higher on that show than anything in previous for a one-nighter, for a one-time show at Thames Television in the UK. It just went bonkers. And so then they decided to do a 16-week episode called the Magic Comedy Strip. And it was the same sort of show. And then I was brought back, so was Rudy and David Williamson for, doing 16 episodes. And then that became the series. And that was by John Fisher. And he's brilliant. He did Paul Daniels. Anything to do with magic in the UK, he was responsible for, including Tommy Cooper and everybody else. And so I got to work with him. Fantastic. Here's a thought on John Fisher that maybe some of you can apply. He said, hey, I'd like you to be on this show, the Magic Comedy Hour. I said, okay. He said, I'm going to be in New York on this date. I see you're going to be according to your schedule. Blah. I said, yeah, I can meet you at the airport. He says, this is what I want you to do. I want you to create 12 new bits of magic that you've never performed before. Now, you can have the ideas down, but never performed before. 12. I want 12 new ones. And he goes, and that's what you're going to do on my show when you come back for the Magic Comedy Strip. Actually, yeah, this was afterwards. This is for the Magic Comedy Strip because you needed a lot of segments for. So, which I thought was rather wild. Why would a producer just want you to throw in stuff you've never done before? We all had 3 months, and he gave me and Rudy and David. He said the same thing to everybody. And so I'm scrambling. Wow, I got 3 months to that to me, that's like not enough time for 16, So I did the best I can. And the brilliant thinking behind what he said to me was, it made you work so hard. And he knew that I wasn't going to have all these pieces that are good. He knew that there was only going to be maybe 6. Well, that's all he used was 6. But he made me do so all of these ones, I'm like, I'm doing these and they're not doing, and it didn't go over all that well. And it didn't go over, but a couple of them really hit really good. And sure enough, he got enough good ones from everybody that you've never seen this stuff before. He got all original content and all good content and not any more than what he really needed, but he made you believe that he was going to put all your stuff out there. So that was, talk about a pressure. Put yourself on a timeline for success on that, and it will make you rethink what you do.
Wow. Well, and that makes you really invested for that show too. I mean,
Right?
it's all your time and effort. You're constantly thinking in the background while you're performing, you're thinking that deadline's coming. Yeah.
I am. Yeah. And I was on the set. I was a very nervous camper, as everybody was. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to go over. I've never performed it before. If I did, it was only once or twice at a comedy club or whatever. I only got to perform most of this stuff. And I think one of the things that came out of it that I think I was most proud of was, I think it was Fruit Overhead. And I gave some guy, I vanished a dollar bill and I gave him a bowl of fruit. And then I did basically balls over the head where everything vanished, but I did it with fruit. So I took a grape and I think I said, okay, watch carefully. And I did this. I said, it's gone. Do you know where it's at? And he goes, no. And I go, and I spit it out of my mouth because I secretly threw it in my mouth. And then the pieces got bigger eventually. And then when I threw an apple over his head, it was gone. And then when I made it reappear, because the person behind me is catching it, he took a bite out, sent it back to me and go, oh, there's the apple. Oh, wait a minute. Did you do this? And bites out of the apple. And then I put the banana, 1, 2, 3, and I just let it on my shoulder. And he's like, wow, where'd it go? And I'm like, there it is. It's on my shoulder. And then finally the grapefruit, I said, okay, this is going to be a difficult one. And then I said, well, maybe I better do half at a time. And then when I cut it in half, split it open, there was the bill. So see, it wasn't like it was a surprise because nobody knew what was coming.
Yeah.
And then that was the end of the routine. So I think that was the best thing in my mind that came out of that.
Wow.
That sounds great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was the audience? It looked like about 200, 500 people there. I mean, it wasn't a.
It was a full on. They stacked the every day we filmed. They stacked it with new audiences. They do like what they do at any television show that they do in LA. They have tickets sold or whatever, and they reserved. But they packed it. Oh yeah, I bet you there was at least 250, 300 people. I think every day that they shot. And actually, my wife, funny enough, was it just before we were married or just after? I think just before we were married, she went with me. And she's in the audience in the front row laughing because she's a good laugher. So they put her in the front. So in one of my segments where I'm doing the rope trick, you could see her like that. I'm like, honey, you made it. You made it on TV.
That's great. So, I mean, performing a trick you just came up with in front of 300 people, television, you can re-edit, stop, do again. But this was filmed pretty much live, right? Did you have any retakes?
They did, and it's always horrible to do retakes because you don't get the audience. However, the one thing that also came out of the Magic Comedy Hour, the first thing that I did was I did confabulation. And where you ask questions to somebody or get 3 different things, and eventually it appears on a letter written inside your envelope, inside an envelope, inside your wallet. Well, although it's not a new trick, my thing on it, I told him, I said, I hope you don't mind, but I got a new twist on it, and I'm not going to tell you what it is until I perform it. So he was a little nervous because I didn't tell him what I was going to do. And what I did was I said, hi, ladies and gentlemen. And I go, look, good to be here. And I'd like to show you, excuse me, could we stop for a moment? I made this like, everyone's like, what's going on? But he didn't stop taping, which is exactly what I wanted. I said, excuse me, I think do I know you? And I walked over to him, and I walked over to this guy who was with this woman. And I said, wait a minute, we've met somewhere before, haven't we? Wait a minute, maybe in a previous life. I'm not too sure. Let's find out how compatible we are. And then I said, what's your favorite hair color? And he looked at his girlfriend, who was brunette. And he said blonde, which I was. And all of a sudden he realized what he said. And so it became really fun. And I looked at her and I went, And then eventually I elbowed her out, and I actually sat on her lap, like get her out of the way. And I started talking to him more. And I said, oh, and what's your favorite, your zodiac sign? And he says, crabs, is it? And I said, well, you mean Cancer, right? So all this stuff he said was perfect. And then eventually it worked out that it was so funny. They said, John Fisher said, the segment ran 8.5 minutes. And he said, never in television up to that point has any segment ever run that long. He says, but I couldn't, it has to be done. It's a great segment and I can't cut it. So I actually did the very first segment that was too long in television history in the UK.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. So see, sometimes stuff like that, and I took another chance on the Today Show, where you can see that online sometimes. But when I walked in, I was supposed to do the egg bag. And I wanted to have some watches stolen, so I have a finished the egg bag. And so I knew I had to do something radical. And I don't know if you know the Today Show, but how they stand outside in a line around the studio outside. Well, it was raining outside. People had umbrellas. And I said, I got to make this work. And so as soon as I walked into the studio, they said, okay, we're going to be going live in like 4 minutes. I said, cameraman, follow me. And the director said, where are you going? He goes, just follow me. And I walked outside. Of course, they didn't want me to. I didn't care. And so all of a sudden, everyone was, and I sort of talked to a couple people in line, stole their watch really quick, and then invited them into the studio. And of course, this was not approved by anybody, but I did it anyway. Brought them all into the studio. So you guys stand over there. I want you to watch. I go, isn't that great that you guys get front seats, to this? And then at the end of the whole trick, after the egg bag, then I said, oh, and by the way, I got your watch and your watch and your watch and your watch. And everybody went, what? And the reaction on their faces, got caught. And so nobody complained or reprimanded me because it was a really great segment. But sometimes you got to take charge in television, or else and I've had bad television. You got to take charge and do your own thing.
Yeah, they try to
That's
make
great.
it very kiddie-ish. They'll really dumb it down, and I'm gonna disappear now with editing and stop.
Well, either that or, which happens more often, is the host or hostess tries to be the star, which they are by rights, but they try to always, talk during your segment. Like David Letterman would always do that. And then Tom Mullica, when he was on it, he was a star because he ignored Letterman and just barreled through his thing. And Letterman didn't know what to say after a while. He just shut up, which is very un-Letterman-like. But that's because Tom knew what to expect and didn't want to be interrupted. And he just barreled through and he didn't care. So that's what you got to do. Sometimes the host, you got to like talk over the host. You got to say, no, we're doing it this way or else it's not going to work. So yeah. So take charge.
We're running out of time. One more question.
No.
One more question for you, because I'm telling you, I love you. Thank you for doing this. Tommy Cooper, Mullica, you've mentioned both of those. Who are your comedy magic idols?
Well, probably the ones nearest and dearest to me is Jay Marshall and Billy McComb, because I think I spent most time with them, and they were of another era of classic comedy and entertainment that is not like today. And so I think because of their styles and sort of, I like to think that I'm keeping a little bit of the old style there, but yet with some original ideas. So Billy McComb probably wins out top, I would think, of comedy and magic for me.
Wow. Dude, this hour flew by. Thank you for doing this. Marvyn's Magic, what's the website? Where can people find you?
It's marvinsmagictheater.com. And even if you misspell it, it'll lead you to the right place. And our shows start on October 17th this year. And we will go through we're booked all the way through May and even to the first few weeks of June, although it's not announced in June yet. But don't worry, you got the whole season, and we got some great shows and great artists. And it's a wonderful place. So if you're ever out in Southern California or like Los Angeles, we're only like a couple hours away from Los Angeles. So come on down and see it. You're going to love it.
Nice.
And jeffhobson.com for everything else?
And jeffhobson.com. Yeah. And that's my lame website.
It's an awesome website.
The photography is better.
There you go. All right. You were awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Only thing we have left to say is see you next week.
Check us out online at wesiseli.com and patreon.com/Wes_Iseli for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled WESISELI.